I'm usually on your side.
It's a great joke. It's a great joke. I'm Greg Tepper. That's Greg Powers. This is This Week
In Cruton!
This Week in Recruiting with Greg Powers of Next Level Athlete. Follow him on Twitter at GPowerScout. Follow Next Level Athlete on Twitter, Next Level D1. See his fine work at TexasFootball.com/recruiting. And, of course, this is brought to you by our good chicken friends at Chicken Express. Chicken Express!
That would slap.
Even Grandma can't make chicken better than them.
Ooh.
Wow, what a shot at all the grandmas.
Ooh.
And yet, so, now my grandma did not make chicken.
Oh,
she
man.
She didn't fry chicken, I should say.
Yeah, I was going to say, Granny can...
Granny can cook it, but
can do
Chicken
some fried
Express is
chicken.
reliable.
Yeah, my grandma was from Chicago. Chicago didn't feel like fried chicken country.
No.
You know what I mean?
No, you try some Granny from Central Texas, though, she can get that fried chicken popping.
And yet, here's what I would say. I bet Granny would go to Chicken Express.
She loves chickeny.
Right.
She does.
Granny would go there and be like, respect.
Granny loves corn nuggets. She's a big fan of corn nuggets.
Yeah. Everyone loves corn nuggets. So this week in recruiting with Greg Powers, Next Level Athlete. A lot to get to today. We're going to start with our prospect on the rise. Our prospect on the rise going to Cedar Hill. Talk about their defensive tackle, Sincere Massey. He is having a big senior season this year, and as evidenced by the fact that he has a new offer this week from LSU. He is an Arizona State commit, but now, boy, LSU's in a weird spot.
Man, this is weird, isn't it? This is
had
why I
this-
wanted to talk about this.
We had this conversation about the DeAnthony Gatson
Yep.
at USC, where he went and they fired Clay Helton. He ends up decommitting from USC. I don't think that's necessarily a super surprise given the circumstances and all that fun stuff. Now comes word that Ed Orgeron is done after this year. He's toast. He's functionally fired. He's dead man walking. And yet they're out here making big time offers to guys like Sincere Massey. And you got to think, whenever you get, regardless of who the coach is and what the coaching situation is, you get an offer from LSU, you're going to perk up and listen.
Well, before we go strictly to Sincere Massey, I'll say it's been a weird read about Ed Orgeron and LSU this week. There's been a lot of things that have, I guess, surfaced whenever you get let go that may have stayed under the wraps when you're winning national championships. So that in and of itself is like an interesting story that's been uncovered this week. But from the outside, somewhat looking in, Ed Orgeron just seems like the type of guy for LSU that wouldn't quit doing what he was supposed to do just because he's not going to be the coach.
True.
And he's been in that same situation, ironically, at USC. Whenever he took over the head coaching job there, and actually the team started to rally around him at the end, and he did a pretty good job of setting up some success for whoever was coming in there after him. Now that you start to see some departure from the roster, that's going to open up opportunity for some players. Most interestingly, I think those opportunities are inherently going to come into Louisiana and Texas because that's a bordering state, and a lot of Texas players play at LSU. And Sincere Massey is one of these guys at 6'5", 280 pounds in the middle of the defensive line that if you line up against him and you're in high school, he's going to remind you of a high school version of Cameron Hayward. You know, a huge defensive tackle who is pretty much just going to have his way with you at the point of attack. There aren't going to be very many offensive linemen that can get underneath his pads and move him backwards. He's really strong, moves really well for a big guy. We had queued up some highlights from the big game against DeSoto, but you're looking at his junior highlight tape here. He's actually made some strides within his senior year development to play more balanced, play more under control, and is definitely a lot stronger than he was even as a junior. But you can see here that he has the tools that a school like LSU and where he's committed, Arizona State, you can see what they like in him and why they've offered him scholarships.
Yeah, he's a guy that's certainly going to be on the radar now. You know, he's an Arizona State commit. We'll see if suddenly an offer from I mean, let's be honest, a headless LSU right now, sways them. But certainly you talk about a place that has put out big-time defensive linemen in their history. LSU has been a defensive line factory there. So if he's got hopes of going to the next level, that could be something, to keep in mind there.
While we're on LSU, I wanted to kind of talk about something that we don't normally talk about, and that's out-of-state recruiting. And there is a big-time quarterback out there. His last name is Manning. His first name is Arch.
Oh.
Ever heard of him?
Oh, I thought you were talking about Peyton.
No,
I was like, I see
not
him
Peyton,
on Monday Night Football.
not
Yeah.
Eli. You listen to him.
I heard
his
Cooper. I heard
family.
Cooper would have been the best one.
But there's a quarterback out there named Arch Manning who's a big deal, right?
Yes.
He's the #1 recruit in the country, and a lot of people feel like Texas
Is
has
the front runner.
is the front runner in this recruitment. Will the LSU
Mm-hmm.
coaching shakeup impact this recruitment? If
Certainly.
they hire a coach that,
They hire Peyton Manning as their head coach.
you know what I mean?
Texas fans everywhere are probably booing you right now.
Well, I'm not
It's
trying to
true.
say I'm not trying to say that, but it is the truth. It's something
Well,
that I mean.
The other thing,
I just thought of that automatically. Is like, are they going
Yeah.
to hire somebody that Arch Manning's now going to look at LSU
Yeah.
more seriously? That's exactly what I thought of whenever I.
yeah, I mean,
because I'm a recruiting nerd.
It's certainly dangerous. I think you would agree. It's certainly dangerous to hire a guy based on the idea of him bringing in one recruit.
Right.
Right. For example, Mizzou did that in basketball when they hired Quanzo Martin because they wanted to get Michael Porter Jr. in there. That's kind of functionally why they hired Quanzo Martin. I mean, it's worked out okay for them,
Right.
but like that's a dangerous road to go down. But Arch Manning is considered a game-changing, program shifting type quarterback. We'll see. I also know that he's visiting Ole Miss this week. And did you see that they're gonna? I think they're gonna retire Eli Manning's number or something. Like they're gonna do something like it just so happens to be when Arch Manning's gonna be there.
Well, Arch Manning's one of those recruits where you know where he's visiting every week. I
Yes.
saw like during Texas's game this weekend, pictures are surfacing of him on the sidelines from recruiting analysts. That they're actually publishing pictures in the pregame. Arch Manning is here. Everybody knew Arch Manning was there, but they're like, here it is. It's
There
proof
were
he's here.
other recruits posting pictures with him during the game.
So
Like, that's big.
Oh yeah, for
So
sure.
it's going to be interesting to watch that unfold because you have to maybe if he is that good to you, I don't think the AD is going to think about that in his decision making process. I guess I should say nothing is ever definitive. But
okay, this is now turning into a conversation about Arch Manning. But shout out to Cedar Hill defensive tackle Sincere Massey. Let me ask you: does Texas presently have a quarterback committed in the class of 2022?
no.
Well, then maybe they're holding a spot open. Anyway, that's all I'm saying. Let's get to our commit of the week. Our commit of the week, let's go Houston way. Talk about Atascocita wide receiver Keith Wheeler. Keith Wheeler, I'm a big fan of this guy.
Yep.
And he has pulled the trigger. He is heading to Tulsa, the Golden Hurricane. Hurricane, singular?
No, I think
Are they plural?
Yeah, you're right. No, I think it's Hurricane.
Miami's the Hurricanes, and they are the Golden Hurricane.
Singular
Right.
hurricane.
He had offers, including some in-state offers from Houston and UTSA, some SEC offer from Arkansas, but he's going to Tulsa over them. This is a big get for Tulsa, and they're getting a playmaker that I really, really like.
There were some other commitments this week, but this is the one that jumped out at me because, like you, I'm a big Keith Wheeler fan, and I was kind of surprised that there weren't a whole lot more schools on his offer list. I noticed the offer from Arkansas early on in his recruitment. I think Kansas was probably another big one for him early, and I was kind of wondering, how's this going to shake out and why? And we even saw him in the state 7-on-7, and he was even more impressive there than I thought he was, on tape. So he's not only good on tape, he passes the eyeball test and really looks good in person. And this is just a huge pickup for TU this week.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a guy who I think will really make waves in their offensive scheme, and they do a good job of getting these type of skill guys in their offense there. They got Sam Crawford up there now, who's one of their best players from Rockwall, and I think Keith Wheeler is one of these guys who can fall in line with that. He's a long and lanky wide receiver with exceptional ball skills.
And he's a guy, one of the things I think is interesting about Tulsa, they always do a pretty good job recruiting Texas. They always, this is really, we talk about Oklahoma coming down, Oklahoma State coming down. Tulsa as well does a good job. I mean, you remember that back in the class of 2020, they brought in Everett Rogers from Clean Ellison, Jalen Paxton from Manville, Sean O'Keefe, who's such a star at San Saba, Roman Fuller at Decatur. They do a lot of their shopping south of the Red River. And this is a really impressive get for them to haul in a guy who's, a 3-star. I really like this kid.
Four of their 9 commits in this class in 2022 are from Texas already. So.
They do a lot of their shopping down here. And by the way, here's a quick Tulsa story. So I worked in Tulsa twice. This is true. And that's a flex. I worked for the Tulsa World. Shout out to
John Hoover.
Oh, the great John Hoover. He's a good man. Anyway, There was one.
Y'all are all over the place
I know,
today.
that's fine. We're just rapping. At one point, I texted my brother and I said, "Yeah, I got to go cover." And my brother went to Texas Tech. I said, "Yeah, this week I got to go cover the. I got to go to cover the TU game, stuff like that." And my brother wrote back. He's like, "Man, don't call them TU. Like that's a very like that's what the Aggies do and stuff like that. Like you don't." And I'm like, "No, I meant Tulsa. Like."
Right.
Tulsa University.
What was
which
funny
is
when
known
he
as
said
TU.
it, that's the first thing I thought of. I was like,
Yeah, exactly.
So some Longhorn fan
There was-
just tuning in is
yeah,
going,
Longhorn
first the
fan
Arch
be like,
Manning thing and now a TU comment. This Greg Powers guy.
TU is Tulsa.
This was Tulsa, and I wasn't trying to make a dig at Texas either on Arch Manning, none whatsoever. I just find it an interesting story that LSU could they hire based around trying to get a player like Arch Manning? Is that in the cards?
We're talking this week in recruiting with Greg Powers, next level athlete here on Texas football.
Noted
Get involved in the
Longhorn hater.
conversation. This football. Hashtag TF today. Let's get to our underclassmen of the week. Our underclassmen of the week. Let's go to another program that's no stranger to putting out big time playmakers. Dangerfield. Let's talk about their 2024 athlete Aaron Hampton, who picked up his first offer this week from TCU. This is a pretty vintage TCU thing to do, is to identify a guy as a sophomore at a small school that we think this guy could be a star and get in the door first. They did it with Aaron Hampton, and here's a guy, they got him playing defensive back, but he's really versatile and can play a lot of different places.
There were a whole lot of new offers this week, but this one really grabbed my eye because I think it's just the tip of the iceberg for Aaron Hampton. He's been making waves on the field for Dangerfield, and not only as a defensive back, where I think that's probably his highest upside because his defensive back film playing cornerback this season is really good, and I think that's where he was offered, to play at TCU as at corner. But he's kind of like a Mr. Do-It-All for them, lines up in a lot of different areas, and really, makes Dangerfield dangerous. They have a lot of good players on that team. That's
Yes.
a really good team.
And they're young. Like
Yeah.
they're still like they're pretty good this year, and I think that 2022 may be the year for Dangerfield to really make the leap on the field. And a lot of it is that they've got some blue chip guys like Aaron Hampton, a name you're probably I don't want to spoil the Rising magazine that we're working on. Is it fair to say we may see his name in there?
It's fair to say that you will.
Okay, all right. Ooh, wow, breaking news there.
Yeah.
There's one of the more than 400 prospects.
You're going to have to read the magazine to get the other 49 names.
Yeah,
But
there's one.
But there's one.
And let's round it all out with our recruit of the week. Our recruit of the week, it's Fort Bend Marshall 2022 wide receiver Chris Marshall. That works. Fort
Yep.
Bend Marshall, Chris Marshall. He's got a top 3 that he has named. USC, Alabama, and Texas A&M. He's a 4-star prospect, number 21 in our Hot 100 on texasfootball.com/recruiting, and a guy that, would be a big-time playmaker for any of these programs. I know that the consensus out there is that A&M is at least in the lead, right?
yeah, that's how I feel about it too. I think that Texas A&M is always going to be a player, especially in the Houston area. Fort Bend schools do a pretty good job of sending talent up that way. This is one of these guys in this class who I feel like I'm never going to rate high enough. This is like one of those ones like you think about a lot, He's rated at number 21 in the state right now. But last year was basically his first full year I think it was his first year of playing football. He's one of these kids that they got off the hardwood and converted into a wide receiver, and he put up monster numbers, and he's back again this year putting up those same stats even better and refining his skill set. So will we miss on him as we look back on these rankings and say maybe he was the best wide receiver in this class? It's stiff competition when you have guys like Evan Stewart and Caleb Burton at the top, but they aren't 6'3", 195, 200 pounds. Could he be that Mike Evans type of receiver if he ends up at Texas A&M or, if he goes to Alabama or USC, be one of those type of guys? But he is one of these prospects who I feel like maybe I should rate him higher.
Yeah.
And maybe we will. Maybe we will, but he's one that is in my thoughts a lot.
Well,
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and he's a guy who he's in many respects kind of a victim of the class that he plays in, right? I think that there's other places where other classes that he's been, even in the past couple of years, where if he were in that class or in the future, he would be like the number 1 receiver or the number 2 receiver, stuff like that. But because it's such a stacked 2022 class, he may get lost in the shuffle. It may also be a factor of the fact that like he plays at Fort Bend Marshall where they've got a ton of guys, right?
Right.
And if he were playing at I don't know, if he were playing at Franklin, right?
Yeah.
Even though they've got a number of big-time playmakers, that might be a situation where he could shine. He might be the guy there as opposed to one of the big-time playmakers they have for the Buffalo.
I don't want to cast a bad feeling on being rated number 21 in the state of
being
Texas.
the 21st.
You know what I mean?
prospect.
Like, I don't want to say that. I'm just saying, is he a top 10 type of guy, and we're missing the boat on this? I
Right.
think he has that type of talent. You're always splitting hairs when you're breaking down some of these guys because they're all really good, but he's just one that I feel like we could have regret about later. How's that?
A guy we never have regret about. It's Greg Powers, the Next Level Athlete. Follow him on Twitter, GPower Scout. Follow Next Level Athlete on Twitter. Next Level D1C is fine work at TexasFootball.com/recruiting. Stay tuned so you can introduce the next segment. Stay right there. Don't move.
Got it.
Run.
Hey, thanks for watching this clip here on YouTube. If you like this kind of stuff and you want more of it, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And remember, you can watch us live every weekday at noon at TexasFootball.com, Facebook, Twitch, or here on YouTube. And if you want more of the best coverage of football in the state of Texas, check out TexasFootball.com and become a Dave Campbell's Texas Football Insider at TexasFootball.com/subscribe.